Great. Okay, so welcome everybody to this second session, series of 4 information sessions about careers in construction. So last week we had our first session, which was about the industry as a whole and how it's been affected since COVID and since Brexit. And this session is focused on trade apprenticeships and post-16 construction training. So we have 3 speakers here today. Each of them is going to give you a different perspective on this. And then we'll have time for questions at the end from each of them. So I think we can just get started. So our first speaker is Anthony from the CITB. And Anthony will be able to share his slides, and we'll share all the slides afterwards as well. So Anthony, if you want to.
Brilliant, thanks a lot. I'll just share my screen. This is where it either works or goes horribly wrong.
Yeah, we've got it.
Brilliant, lovely job. Okay, so just a very short whistle-stop tour on grants and funding offer from us at CITB. I'm Anthony Frayne, so I'm the customer engagement team leader for the London area. So one of the main remits of my team is to support CITB registered employers with a range of things, but one of the main parts is an offer around apprenticeships. So today what we'll go through is what our role is at CITB, what grants are available, a bit of information on the government incentives, and then potential next steps moving forward. So I won't go through the whole slide, you'll have a copy of it, but ultimately we raised the construction levy for companies to help support 3 key strands, which is careers, standards, qualifications, and training and development. And I've enclosed on the slideshow a little bit of information there on the link as to how this levy is used and what projects it funds. So in terms of if you're looking to support school and college leavers into apprenticeships and working with any of your wider sort of businesses, any CITB registered employer can access an attendance grant of up to £2,500 a year if they take on an apprentice in a trade that's in scope. Upon completion of the apprenticeship standard, there's also a payment of £3,500 available. The key thing for this to be aware of is, though, and I don't know the answer why, but the 2 major trades really, or 3 in terms of gas, plumbing, and electrical, are not actually classed as in scope or construction. They're actually under a STEM heading. So we fund apprenticeships for in-scope trades only, and again there are limits on the number of years we can pay the attendance grant for. That's also included within this slideshow as well. So I mean, this could be anything along the lines of carpentry and joinery, right the way up to degree apprenticeships as well. So something that might be of use when you're having those discussions with learners about career pathways is actually those non-standard trades, as we like to call, so things like quantity surveying, civil engineering. There are actually higher and degree apprenticeships available, and again registered companies can apply for attendance and achievement grants in these areas as well, but there's a comprehensive list that's attached to the slideshow. In terms of at present, I mean, it's a very short window, less than 2 weeks to go pretty much. Regardless of any changes at the moment, employers will receive up to £1,000 incentive payments for hiring an apprentice that's either age 16 to 18 or somebody who's up to the age of 25 with an education and healthcare plan. So again, when these discussions are happening in amongst your networks, it may be worthwhile encouraging having these discussions and raising awareness. Now, for apprentices that have been recruited between the 1st of August last year and the end of March, there are payments for taking on an apprentice through the apprenticeship service account for £2,000 for apprentices aged 16 to 24 and £1,500 for those aged 25 or older. Now, again, the employers must be registered on the apprenticeship service accounts, which there is a guide attached on this as well. But again, it's something to be wary of and something to pass on and discuss with your employer networks if they're considering taking on apprentices in construction. And I've attached some useful guides on this slideshow as well, which you can share amongst your networks as well. And that is a really quick whistle stop tour of what we offer. So I suppose any questions, any way in which we can help, more than willing to take those on board now. So please feel free to ask any questions or any way in which me or my team can help with you.
So one of the things I think worth highlighting, as you mentioned that for the employers to get those grants, they'd have to put the apprenticeships on the apprenticeship account. So I've just put in the chat the link basically where those apprenticeships would show up to the young people you're advising. So it's worth directing them specifically to that website. It's quite easy because they can also just select an interest and select construction on their postcode, and it will show them all of the apprenticeships that are available in construction near to them. So it's something to be aware of.
One of the other ones as well, perhaps to add to that as well, is the Go Construct website, which we currently manage that platform. That will also give a range of information on there. So again, it'd be useful for the young people and for those leading on the careers as well. So have a look at that. I mean, in terms of one of the things we can offer is I can share an email address. So if anybody speaks to employers and they're interested, but they're not quite sure what they need to do, the registered employers can come to us, send through some questions, and we can get a local advisor to work with them. I'll also share my email address as well. So if anybody, so the careers advisors or any other staff want to have a discussion with me about sort of perhaps how we can collaborate and support that, I'm more than willing to help with that as well. So any way we can help, more than happy to.
We have had one question coming from Dorothy. She asked the question, not all construction companies advertise vacancies on the gov.uk website. Can this be looked at?
I suppose that's a very good question there. I suppose maybe we can take that, Dorothy, if I share my email address to you, we can sort of take that offline and we can look at ways in which we can sort of use our platform to support that. So as we won't have the answer now, but I'm sure we can sort of have a conversation offline and come to a way to solve that.
Yeah, and I imagine that's why they've tied the grants to them listing it through that account so that they'll come up on the government website. And yeah, at least we'll put the Go Construct website in the chat, and in the email afterwards, we'll send it through all the links and slides that we talk about during this session. Okay, our next speaker is Glen from Barking College to give the further education perspective.
Everyone, hope you're well. I'll just share my screen as well. Hopefully this goes all to plan, just to show the offer for construction, and then I'll run through this and how it links with apprenticeship. So I hope you can all see the screen. This is just a snippet from the whole offer from ourselves as a college, but I'll run through the construction side with yourselves today. In terms of ourselves as a college, we offer both full-time provision and apprenticeship provision, and there is a high link in between that, whether it's someone coming in at full-time then progressing to apprenticeships, or someone doing an apprenticeship but then progressing to full-time, say higher education. So I'll link this as well with CITB and also how we work with employers as well. So in terms of learners, when they do come through to us, we have the offer, like I say, of full-time provision or apprenticeship provision, and this all goes on entry requirements. So apprenticeships themselves have entry requirements set. Normally English and maths is paramount in that, and from that point we can engage what avenue to go down and what the offer will be. In terms of the full-time offer, like you can see here, we offer from COB site management, construction, which is the new T level coming in, extended diplomas in construction, site management, and again another T level there, which is new for this year, which is pretty much a extended work placement, linking that in with then college-based delivery as well. But the paramount ones in terms of the full-time for students coming in are your carpentry, electrical, painting and decorating, plumbing, and trowel trades. We also offer the apprenticeships in all of those areas. And like I say, the transition between the two is someone can come in with grades that wouldn't particularly put them onto an apprenticeship, but they may come in and do a diploma in carpentry and joinery with their functional skills alongside that to then progress them over that year into an apprenticeship the following year. In terms of the apprenticeships themselves, we sort of work sort of two-sided really in terms of providing those opportunities. So learners can come in with an employer that is happy to take them on, and our business development team will do the checks needed, get the health and safety forms complete, make sure insurances are in place, and then make sure that that learner's got a start time and got the assessor assigned, etc. On the flip side of that, we'll go out and speak to companies, for instance, Steve or whoever it may be, about apprenticeship opportunities, which we then advertise on the National Apprenticeship Service website, which then the learners can apply for, go through the recruitment process with ourselves, and then be set up for interviews and progress down that line, and hopefully get the apprenticeship and then be part of the college as a learner as well. So linking that with the CITB, it is a case that if that employer is part of or paying the CITB levy, then we back that up with an email or a form basically to say that this learner is in this apprenticeship with us as a college, which will then release those grants direct from CITB. So we sort of link the whole sort of not say picture, but we try and link it as best we can with providing the details for CITB, but then also providing the opportunities through the employers for the apprenticeships. Just stop sharing that, and then if there is any sort of Q&A, please feel free to put that across.
Glenn, you mentioned briefly the grade requirements for some courses. If they have students that haven't achieved grade 4 in maths and English, can they still apply for some of the courses and do? Yeah. So what our main goal is, if you're coming in, then look at the apprenticeship side. But if not, and the grades don't meet the requirements, then that's where we offer the full-time provision to say complete 1 year doing carpentry and joinery at level 2 or level 1, but alongside that, retake English and maths at functional skill level 2, to then put you in a position the following year to step into an apprenticeship. And if you don't mind, do you mind just speaking brief? You mentioned the T level construction.
Yeah.
And obviously one of the benefits of that is that it doesn't specialise so early. Do you mind just talking more about how that course is structured? Yeah, so the structure on that, it's almost 50% work-based learning as well as the other 50% in college. So there's a lot of emphasis on actually being in the workplace, but not necessarily being an apprentice. So it's similar to probably more of a full-time provision course, but with a heavy amount of work placement with that employer, and it's generally at a higher level as well, but it's more of a work placement than an apprenticeship. So obviously there's different aspects that come into that, i.e. not on a fixed salary like an apprenticeship and things like that, but it is something new that's come in, something us as a college is running with, and hopefully it will obviously breed more success going forward once it's really embedded into our delivery. Great. Excellent. Sorry, one last thing. Just on the brochure you showed, it mentioned the MCA quality mark. I wonder if you could talk briefly about that. Yeah, so us as a college have got that quality mark for ourselves. So in terms of learners, and I know learners coming through in terms of parents and employers that want to work with us, all of our obviously checks are there. Obviously we're Ofsteded as and when ourselves. So for anyone that is looking, we're got our boxes ticked, and in terms of delivery, it's all there and ready to go.
Glenn, we've got a couple of questions that have come through in the chat, if that's all right. Yeah. The first, there's a couple about the T level. Yeah. Asking, at the end of the T level, is the student fully qualified? And also a question around what is likely to happen to the BTEC option once the T levels are established. And there are quite a few other questions once you're done with those two. No, that's all right. In terms of the BTECs, my assumption would be they'll probably be sort of phased out depending on the success of T levels. So it probably would look at not necessarily a replacement, because it is a little bit different on the work placement side. But I could see that potentially just becoming either full-time itself, T level, or apprenticeship. So there'll be that sort of 3 different avenues to go down, but then linking that throughout. So if you're
go through a full-time, you can then progress to a T-level or an apprenticeship, then progress on from there. So that's where I can see that going, but I don't quote me too much on it, but that's where I can see it going.
Great, thanks. A couple of other questions that have come through in the chat around the apprenticeships you offer. One is whether you offer kind of higher level apprenticeships, and maybe a little bit about that. And the second around apprenticeships is, are there allowances for students with an ECHP with regards to English and maths?
Yes, there is. Yes, I'll look into that more detail in terms of the fine print for that, but there are provisions made. In terms of the higher level qualifications, ourselves as a college, we're one of 12 institutes of technology in the country now. So in terms of our higher level, we go up all the way to level 7. Obviously, there's different areas that we go up. With that, we would be project management level 4, management itself in terms of that at level 5. But there are avenues in terms of if you are going into construction to then take that hands-on and move it through the business in terms of management level. We provide those qualifications if those opportunities arise as well.
Awesome, thanks. A couple more questions from me.
That's all right.
So one around is whether you have just the one college site where you're based, or if you have other sites across London, and also a request to put your contact details in the chat if you're happy to share them.
Yeah, so our main site is at Rush Green, but we do have other sites, one in sort of more Barking itself rather than sort of Romford way, but that's sort of for particular qualifications at particular levels, but we have sort of little sort of breakout centres across wherever projects come up. So we are mainly at Rush Green, but we are, again, I've got sort of pop-up centres when they arise.
And if it's okay for me to just jump in there. So we've got Glen here to give a perspective of one college, but obviously there's quite a number of colleges across London providing construction courses. So I'm just going to put in a resource that's been created by some colleagues here at the GLA. So it's a directory of all of the construction courses offered by colleges that have received that Mayor's Construction Academy quality mark across London. So you can use that with the young people you're advising they can search by area, by course type, and by level. There's loads of different filters to find what construction courses, both apprenticeships and courses, are available to them where they are. And the other thing to say is I know there was a few questions about degree and higher apprenticeships, and then next week's session will be focused specifically on degree and higher apprenticeships along with graduate routes to entry.
Yeah. What I'll also do is I'll put the link to the brochure in the chat and then put my email address underneath as well. So if there's any sort of questions or queries, just feel free to ping that across and I'll either answer myself or get the best answer I can from some of my colleagues at the college. I I'm conscious of time, so if it's okay. So we've also got the perspective of an employer here. So Steve, I will get your slides up. I just remembered I'm supposed to do that. Yes, there we are. Okay.
Lovely. Right, as you can see from that, I'm Steve Hammond. I'm a training manager for Anderson Group. We're a housing developer, mainly in the southeast of the country, but we do everything from Brighton up to Cambridge and from city centre out to Ipswich on the east coast. And what we're going to look at, or what I've been asked to discuss today, is what we actually look for in our apprentices, and just to give a little bit of advice of how people should be applying for apprentices and applying for jobs. So we can go on to the next slide, please. Yay, technology. The whole purpose of apprenticeships, realistically, well, the way that we look at it is we use it as a fast track system. We want our apprentices to come through and we see them being our next supervisors and managers. So it is businesses having the foresight to look at the longevity of their company, because we are struggling to get people to come into the industry. So we need to start creating our own workforce. So that is the whole purpose of apprenticeships that we look at it. And various companies look at it in various different ways. Some of them use it just to keep the workforce ticking over. Some of them use it for, like we do, to nurture our new and future supervisors and hopefully potential managers, and some of them may even go to be managing directors in the future and owning their own businesses. So we look at people's careers from the very beginning when they start with us all the way through to retirement. You will tend to find that majority of people will actually move from company to company, which is fine, because I think it is good that you see a different aspect from different businesses, because different companies work in different ways. You're going to be learning different techniques, different procedures, different protocol from different companies. So we always encourage people to look elsewhere as well. Next slide, please. Wicked. So general expectations from I can only speak from us as a business, but I do obviously talk to a lot of other companies out there. And we keep hearing these key words being work ready, and they're coming out of, or students are coming out of college or school being work ready. And the perception of work readiness varies from person to person and company to company. But what I hear an awful lot is being suitably qualified makes you work ready. I'm afraid to say, from our point of view, being qualified, yes, it is absolutely vital. But there are some other skills that is absolutely vitally important, A, to get you through the apprenticeship, and B, to fit into any company. And the first one, which always springs to mind and takes me back to my school times, is timekeeping. If we're expected to be on site at 7:30 in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning, we don't expect you to see people at 7:30. We'd be looking at 20 past 7 and actually being ready for work at 7:30. So timekeeping is absolutely vital, and being reliable. We probably all know people that don't turn up on certain days at school, college, or at work. You get the individuals that you never see them on a Monday or a Friday. And from a management point of view, if I'm seeing that regularly, people aren't going to get fast tracked. We'll see them through their apprenticeship, and then that will probably be it. Keen to work and learn, and this ties into a few things really, but the keenness, and also asking questions, and just continuously having that drive to learn. Any supervisor, any manager looking at someone that's always asking them questions, they're going to look on them favourably, rather than the individual that just comes in and does their work and then goes home of a night time. Good behaviour and trustworthiness, that all speaks for itself. One of the key things on any construction site is the safety side, and a majority of businesses that is at the forefront of anything that we do, making sure that people come to work safely and obviously go home safely. And that's obviously tied in line with the pandemic that we've all been dealing with for the last year, making sure that construction sites are COVID safe. And you'll find now, regardless of the news broadcast you may have seen right at the very beginning, where construction sites were congested, where people were using public transport, where their welfare facilities were probably quite busy and overcrowded, that has completely changed now, totally and utterly changed. We've actually had to double up on all of our welfare facilities because we've reduced the amount of people that can go in at a time. Likewise, working in groups has completely changed now. So the whole process of construction over the last year has massively changed, and it is continuing to change. So the safety side is absolutely vital, and that ties into the housekeeping. A clean site is an efficient site, not only from the safety side, but also from the production side, and the quality as well, the quality of work. Everyone thinks that when they come out and start working construction, you've got to do everything at pace, go fast, get it done. That's all well and good, but if the quality isn't there, then you end up redoing it anyway. So you're spending more time repairing stuff that you've already put in place. So the quality is absolutely vital. Speed will come with experience. So it isn't about quantity, it's about quality initially. Politeness and responsive, being polite, I mean, that's in every walk of life, whether you're in construction, whether it's anywhere at all. Politeness is absolutely vital. And being responsive, it's a ever adapting trade. No matter what you do, whether you're an environmental officer, whether you're a carpenter, whether you're a bricklayer, whether you're a ground worker, every single day is different, and we need people to be able to respond on the spot. without whinging and whining, which ties you into able to adapt with no fuss, good attitude, thinking for yourself, and proof of competence. One of the things that we do an awful lot in conjunction with CITB is ensuring that the whole industry is suitably qualified and competent to do the work that we're employed to do. So minimum requirement you will find on the majority of construction sites now would be attending a health and safety awareness course, which is generally a one-day course. And from that, you can prove competence that you've had some form of health and safety training. And the last one that I said on there is asking questions. The more questions that people get asked, the more favourable it is for the individual. We could take the next slide, please. The actual applying for apprentices, the apprenticeships, this is one of the things that I get asked about quite often. And we've also had a question earlier on today that certain companies or not all jobs are actually advertised nationally. So how do people know about apprenticeships, and where do you go? Who do you write to? Who do you send your CVs to? So on and so forth. You'll tend to find in majority of construction, jobs are word of mouth. It gets passed from individual to individual. It gets passed on through families, friends, so on and so forth. Now, over the last couple of years, this is starting to change slightly, and we do a lot more careers events. Every single construction company of a certain size has what they call a corporate social responsibility. So we have to attend so many events, so on and so forth. So going to job fairs is absolutely vital. And what I do find that when individuals looking for apprenticeships turn up at job fairs, they don't bring a CV with them. I would like them to bring a CV so I can take it home with them and contact them if it's suitable for them. So making sure they have got that CV, and making sure the CV is suitable as well. And I'm sure everyone knows what a suitable, what they believe is a suitable CV. But I can tell you from my point of view, I receive in the region of 40 to 50 CVs every 2 weeks. I need that first initial paragraph to stand out, because that's all I read to start off with, is the first paragraph, the profile. And I'll actually shortlist from those profiles. So having generic words in there like, I work well on my own, I work well as a team, so on and so forth, so does every other person in the country. I need something that's going to stand out and make me want to meet the individual. So that first profile is absolutely vital in my eyes. And that's what it needs to do. It needs to entice me to meet you or meet someone, and also tailoring it to the job as well. Whether you're putting a CV in to go and work in B&Q or Sainsbury's or in a construction company, making sure that initial profile is actually tailored to that job that's being applied for. And the other thing that I always encourage people to do is, when people are looking for jobs, they'll send out loads and loads of CVs, and I've already said that I'm going to sift through those and shortlist. If I was then to receive a phone call from the individual a couple of weeks after they've sent the CV in, I will respond to them immediately, no matter who you're calling. They've got to respond immediately. So if you're really after a job with that company, I would always say phone up 2 to 3 weeks afterwards. Regardless who it is, you'll generally go through to reception, and the reception will shortlist you as well. That's what receptionists do. So always back it up with a phone call. Also, see if employers provide work experience, and you'll find nowadays that a majority of employers will provide work experience, because we've now realised that that's the best way that we can get to meet individuals, and it's the best interview that anyone will ever have if it runs well. The majority of people that we provide work experience to eventually do come into the industry, and I would say probably 40 to 50% of them actually come and work for us eventually as well. Once you've gone through that work experience, once you've gone through the CVs and you've been, or someone's been invited in for an interview, one of the key faults that I find regularly is people don't research the company that they want to come and work for. They don't even bother looking on the internet site to see what they do, to see what's special about the company. And the other common question that people tend to fail on or have a struggle with is talking about themselves. And I will guarantee no matter what interview people go to, they'll get asked, tell me about yourself and what do you know about the company? They're probably the two key massive bits of advice that I could give to anyone, to pass on to anyone. If we can go on to the last slide, I think. Yeah, this is just a little bit about what we do, and I will talk about our apprenticeships availabilities as well. But this is one of our sites in Erith. It's started off at 600 houses on an old quarry site. We've now just increased that to 250 houses and a bespoke primary school as well, which once again is a part of the corporate social responsibility. We're providing the primary school to the local council free of charge, in the proviso that they let us build 850 houses, which is what is happening. It is totally bespoke. Never seen a development like it before in my life. There's no on-road parking, so none of the roads you will see any cars on there unless they're actually travelling up them. It's all what they call undercroft parking, so everything is being parked underneath the houses. Even the school, the playing field for the school, underneath the playing field is a car park. So all the vehicles are going to be off-road from the environmental side of it. Which is what a lot of people do forget about from construction. We deal an awful lot with the environmental side and our environmental aspects now, which is excellent. What opportunities do we have as a business? I generally take on around about 15 apprentices every year. I've had 3 or 4 with Glen at Barking and Dagenham College in the past. In fact, I've still got one there now on the junior site manager's apprenticeship. Every year I will take on a minimum of 10 ground worker apprentices, which is a level 2 apprenticeship. I also take on level 3s as well in the site management, the QSs, buyers. We are looking at office staff this year as well, so the higher level apprenticeships. I would always say to people, where possible, get into a business and get some work experience there, and always ask them whether they will provide apprenticeships, because you will find now most people will. You heard earlier about the funding that companies can get from CITB. We all also pay into an apprenticeship levy, which is a national levy. So we are paying money into that already. So any apprentices that we take on, we've already paid for. So most businesses will take on apprentices now. And I think that's round about it for me. If there's any questions, please shout out. Or type, should I say.
We do have a few questions there for you, Steve. I just wanted to check with Daniel in regards to time.
Let's answer a couple at least.
Okay, no problem at all. So we have one of the questions here asking you, Steve, do you take on students for work experience, T-levels who do not live in Erith?
Yes, we cover the whole of the southeast of England. So wherever you are, you'll find any construction worker travels. So the average travel time of a construction worker is an hour. So if I haven't got a site that's in your borough or the area where you are, I will probably have a construction site somewhere within that hour commute. So we do take on T-level workers. What we've got to remember is I'm getting asked by every single college throughout the whole of South England, can I take on 120 working or people that are conducting T-levels? It's not viable to do that. What we need to do is encourage more businesses to get involved. So whoever asked the question, please get in touch. If I have got something available, then we can have discussions. I'm not saying that it's a yes, but I'm also not saying it's a no.
And do you take on apprentices between 16 and 18 years of age?
Most definitely, we're one of the few companies that don't see that as a barrier, and it shouldn't be a barrier. No, and the whole reason the barriers were first put up is because people say that that insurance companies won't allow you to take 16-year-olds onto a construction site. I can tell you here and now, between me and everyone that's listening, it's a load of rubbish. Insurance companies will insure anyone from 16 to 18 working on a construction site. The majority of companies don't like doing it because they don't want to manage the individuals. It is a little bit more involvement, but yes, we do take on 16 to 18-year-olds.
Fantastic. Daniel.
Thanks, James. So we will stick around if our speakers are happy to for a bit longer, but I'm just going to say, because I know we put this in for half an hour, some people might need to go. So this is the second session out of 4. So next week we'll be doing a session at 3 o'clock on Tuesday, which we focus on degree and high level apprenticeships, as well as graduate entry into professional roles. And then the following week, it will be all about diversity in construction. Thank you for joining us. If you need to go, that's fine, but we'll stick around for a few more questions from this point onwards. Thanks. And James, if you want to read out the next question.
Yep, no problem at all. So we had a question a little bit earlier. I think this might go across both Steve and Glenn, asking, do any providers work through the Care Leavers Covenant and offer opportunities specifically to that group of young people?
Which covenants was that, sorry?
The Care Leavers Covenant.
We do have similar things with at the college, but unfortunately that's not my sort of area. So if you ping me an email, I can forward that to who can help or who potentially could give you an answer to that. That's not an issue. I'll forward that on.
Brilliant.
From an employer, my company point of view, we don't actually sign up to any covenants. We have a lot of people ask us to, be it ex-military, be it ex-offenders, so on and so forth. So we don't sign up to the covenants. However, I don't refuse anyone applying for a job. I don't care where people come from. I don't care about their backgrounds. I don't care about their qualifications. What I care about is getting the right person into the right job at the right time. So I don't mind who applies for jobs.
Excellent. We have another question. This might touch on.
If we just add on the care leaver, so we'll go away and ask a few questions about that as well. But I know there is a Care Leaver Covenant app for care leavers, which has a section around jobs, which might be the best place for them to go to look for which construction employers near them are engaging with the covenant.
Brilliant. This next question, possibly Anthony might want to get involved for this one. The question is for older people looking to retrain or upskill over 25 years old, are there providers who have funding to support them?
I believe there will be. I was on a call with the GLA on Monday, so the devolved AEB budget is going to be released. I imagine that there's going to be bits released very soon on that. Again, just thinking of what we've also done as well as we've worked with the construction skills funding hubs, but obviously that's coming to a close. So keep an eye out. We'll share our links to our website as well to see if there are any more hub projects coming up as well. But yeah, the answer will be yes, but the detail will obviously emerge over the coming sort of weeks and months.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Another question towards CITB. Is there any support, including from CITB, due to the pandemic for those with increased caring responsibilities, mental health issues? So I suppose this goes across the board. So any support for those with mental health issues or caring responsibilities?
Do you want me to jump in on that, just from a college perspective? One thing that we are looking at in terms of short courses and provision is we are looking at the funding opportunities that we can offer in terms of short-term courses and provision. So it is there at the moment that we are looking into. It would just need sort of ironing out the finer details, but we are looking at the funding that's involved in that.
Brilliant. Did you want to add something, Steve?
With regards to funding, obviously we don't get involved in the funding side, apart from trying to get as much as we can out of people, which is what businesses do. But with regards to caring responsibilities and mental health, majority of businesses now, mental health is one of our big driving forces, especially over the last couple of years. Especially just coming out, or hopefully coming out of the pandemic now. I think that the next issue that we're going to have as a nation is going to be along the mental health. And you will find that most businesses, including ourselves, have got mental health first aiders. And one of the key things that we drive in construction is inclusion. Once again, we really don't mind what needs individuals have. Most businesses now can adapt their ways of working and their offices, their sites around an individual's need. It is looked as an individual now, as opposed to a collective, as it probably was 10, 15 years ago.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Steve. And another question aimed towards CITB. Will CITB avoid organizations who furlough?
I think the answer to that will be no, because that's a separate issue for in terms of that. I mean, we are duty bound by the legislation for those who pay the CITB levy and are registered with us. So we literally can't from a legal perspective. But again, that's something that's sort of outside of our remit.
Okay. And the last one there, are work experience opportunities advertised anywhere, please?
Generally, from our point of view, they don't get advertised. When I go to schools and colleges and universities, I talk about work experience there. You have got various websites that you can go on. Go Construct has already been mentioned. You've also got the STEM website, because we used to have construction ambassadors, which have now moved over to STEM ambassadors. So perhaps going onto the STEM website is another option. And probably the best option, in all honesty, from anyone, is trying to find out who your local construction training association is. Obviously, in London, there is a London Training Association. So getting in touch with associations like that, which have got links into most businesses within the borough, within the London area, within whatever county area, they will have companies that are willing and able to provide work experience. So that's probably your best connection. And obviously CITB, can't forget about CITB as well, but contacting the CITB advisors and your construction training association is probably the best area.
Excellent. Are there any more questions? If anybody would like to raise their hand or type in another question at all?
While we're waiting for that, I'm just going to put in the chat, if you've got a chance to give us some feedback on this session, that would be great. It only takes about 5 minutes to fill in. And if it's okay with all of our speakers, is it all right if I share your email addresses with all the attendees? Because I know there are a lot of people that wanted to get in touch with each of you.
Yeah, that's not a problem at all.
I've actually put mine into chat because I did see a couple of people ask for it, so mine's in chat already. So by all means, please just get in touch.
I think that's it then. If we bring it to a close there, I'll send around all the slides, the links, and the recording tomorrow morning, so you'll be able to get all of that. And hopefully we'll see some of you at the ones coming up as well next week and the following week. So have a good rest of the day. Thank you.